Hi there! Today we're diving into one of the most important parts of your college application, the Common App essay. Most international students like me wouldn't have to do that in their home country, and the idea of writing an essay to get into a certain university seems weird at first, but in the US, it's a very important part of your application. This essay is a personal statement, or in other words, a 650-word opportunity to share your story in your own voice, and to show colleges who you are beyond grades and test scores. Let's talk structure, tips, and I'll even show you some example ideas that could work. First, there are 7 prompts to choose from, but the great news is you can basically write about anything that matters to you, as long as it answers one of them. Let's first talk about the essay structure. First off, you're gonna start with a hook. Start with something that draws the reader in. A moment, a feeling, a surprising line, something that really draws attention and keeps the reader reading. You do not want to start with something boring because then they just don't even feel like reading the essay. So make sure to start off strong. The second part is the conflict or the discovery. Show some growth, a challenge, or a change. The second part after the hook is also quite often a description of like previous circumstances, for example. If you want to describe a challenge that you've overcome in the past, the second part is mostly going to be the description. Then after that, you're going to reflect. What did you learn through that experience, that challenge, that change? How did it all shape you as a person? And then the fourth and the last part, this is also really important. You might have heard of it, like kind of creating a frame around the whole story, is the so-called tie-in. So try to connect it back to your hook, maybe what you started off with, to really have a round ending, and connect it back to your future goals or how you will contribute to the campus. And one, if not the most important advice is show and do not tell. Try to convey your story without necessarily telling your story. Try to not actively or explicitly say, I learned that, or that made me realize that. No. Try to tell your story by showing more. Use metaphors, use adjectives, words that will make the reader imagine your story in front of their eyes. And here are some more tips for your essay. Be specific and not generic. I love helping people is less effective than, for example, I created a peer tutoring program in 10th grade because I noticed how isolated ESL students felt. Don't focus on too many things. Don't try to just basically tell them your resume and like all the great things that you did. Try to focus on like one point in your life, but do it really detailed. Also, use your own voice. Imagine it more like you're talking to a friend or a mentor rather than writing a school essay. Avoid cliches in your essay such as hard work always pays off, or as I already said, summarizing your whole life story. They're gonna see all the great things that you did anyways in your resume that you can attach to your application, or in other parts of your application, in your honors section, in your transcripts. So really make sure to not really focus on just like a resume kind of story. Here's a real example idea. Prompt is describe a challenge that you've overcome. It's one of the prompts on the Common App. An example of how you could start an essay would be, I moved between 4 countries by the time I was 15. I was always the new kid. This is a really good hook, and it could lead to a story about adaptability, identity, and connection. Like in this example, try to focus on like 2, maybe 3, maybe even only 1 value. Don't do like 10 values or something, but with the example adaptability, identity, and connection could be a really good choice. Start early, revise often, and ask someone you trust for feedback. And really write a lot of drafts. Do write a lot of drafts. You can start with anything. Here's also another tip that I use to brainstorm. Here's a little tip for brainstorming. If you cannot come up with a good idea of what your essay is going to be about, go around your room, just put your phone away and just go around your room and then pick up random objects, like extremely random objects. For example, for me, if I picked up that toilet paper right now and try to tell a story about that object, what it means to you, what experiences you have with the object, and that could be an essay. You might realize that some of your objects in your room do mean a lot to you. And maybe then once you start thinking about it, you're like, oh, I found that necklace that my mom gave me and my mom passed away. And then you think about the challenges you had when your mom passed away and what that necklace means to you. You know, like just try to find some objects in your room if you want to brainstorm some ideas. That's a really good tip I can give you. I'll be sharing some more tips on how to edit your essay and how to write supplemental responses, because this was about the general Common App essay, but then there's supplemental essays for specific colleges, like why did you choose this college? What are you going to contribute to the campus? We're going to get to that part later on. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and see you next time!